Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, putting up with the heat wave. If you didn't know it, this is our last recording for the summer quarter. And this recording and class is scheduled for Thursday, the 31st of August. Okay. And then the week later, we shall have our final, and I'll see everybody in person again. So that should be fun. We should be in the quarter, and then the fall quarter, all our classes will be in person, and that should be even more fun. So our last lady in this wonderful class is the famous Evita Peron from Argentina. And again, I'll try to be a little kind and end this class a little early for you, since it's the last one. Give you a couple of less questions, because you'll have a number of weeks material to make sure you know your questions. So without further ado, we proceed with my usual technique. Share the screen, go to the material, start the slideshow. Where do we start it from? The beginning. Right. There we have our school code, HUM 106, Lives of Extraordinary Women. And this has been a fun class to teach. I also learned some things I didn't know about these fantastic ladies. So here we go. So here's a picture of her, Eva Perón, spiritual leader of her time, of the nation, which was Argentina. This was Perón in 1948, with her popular blonde hair. But we shall find out that she dyed her hair, but she was actually a brunette. Why she dyed her hair, I'm not sure. She did. Okay. Maria Eva Duarte de Perón, which is the Spanish pronunciation. English is Maria Eva Duarte. May the 7th, born 1919, died July the 26th, 1952. So if you do the math, right, you got 29, 39, 49. 30, barely made 34 years. It's pretty sad. Better known as just Eva Perón, or by her nickname Evita, which that's what they made the play about her, the musical play, and later the movie with Madonna as the actress. So Evita was an Argentine politician, activist, actress, and philanthropist. If you don't know what a philanthropist is, it is a person that, for one reason or another, they make a lot of money and they give a lot away to the poor. So that's a philanthropist. And she served as First Lady of Argentina, which means she was married to the president, from June 1946 until her death in July 1952, as the wife of Argentine President Juan Domingo Perón. Excuse me. 1895 to 1974. So as you see, he was older than her and lived a lot longer. Lived longer than her, another 22 years, but he was older than her when they got married. She was born in poverty in the rural village of Los Toldos in the Pampas, which is the country region, famous for the Argentinian cowboys, as the youngest of 5 children. In 1934, at the age of 15, she moved to the nation's capital of Buenos Aires to pursue a career as a stage, radio, and film actress. So as you can see, we're not talking about ladies from 200, 300, or 400 years ago. We're talking about something much more recent, last century, in fact. She met Colonel Juan Perón on the 22nd of January, 1944, during a charity event at the Luna Park Stadium to benefit the victims of an earthquake in San Juan, Argentina. The two were married the following year. Juan Perón was elected president of Argentina in June 1946. During the next 6 years, Eva Perón became powerful within the pro-Peronist trade unions, primarily for speaking on behalf of labor rights, which means for the workers. She also ran the Ministries of Labor and Health, founded and ran the charitable Eva Perón Foundation. She also championed women's suffrage in Argentina and founded and ran the nation's first large-scale female political party, the Female Peronists. Let me see, I don't think yeah, right. Okay, cool. A women's suffragists, trying to get the women the right to vote. In 1951, Eva Perón announced her candidacy for the Peronist nomination for the office of Vice President of Argentina, obviously with her husband's backing, receiving great support from the Peronist political base, low income and working class Argentines who were referred to as descamisados or shirtless ones. Similar to the term sans-culottes in the French Revolution, the French translation. Opposition from the nation's military and bourgeoisie, which means political high-level people, coupled with her declining health, ultimately forced her to withdraw her candidacy. So even though her husband was a high-ranking military man, colonel, and he was the king, there were still people in high society and government that had power and connections, and military people themselves who were not happy with her trying to be the vice president. They didn't want a woman to be vice president, probably a Latino macho issue, you know. So in 1952, shortly before her death from cancer at 33, poor thing, such a young age, Eva Perón was given the title of spiritual leader of the nation by the Argentine Congress. See, so that was not just a figurative title or one just given by the media. The actual Congress, the country, gave her the title spiritual leader of the nation. She was given a state funeral upon her death, a prerogative generally reserved for heads of state. So only for the president, high-level military people. I guess she was the first woman that was actually given this honor of a state funeral. Eva Perón became part of the international popular culture. So that means her popularity also spread outside of her country. Most famously as the subject of the musical Evita, 1976. Cristina Alvarez Rodriguez has said that Evita has never left the collective, which means together, consciousness of Argentines. So that means even today, what she did in the past, most Argentinians think about it in her. Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, the second female president of Argentina, after Isabel Perón, claims that women of her generation owe a debt to Eva for her example of passion and combativeness. So, always fighting. Now, again, we've just covered where she was born in a poor town, in the countryside, and then her move to the capital city, moved to Buenos Aires. In her autobiography, she explained that all the people from her town who had been to big cities described them as marvelous places where nothing was given but wealth. That reminds me of the old term from, you can read it in history, people came from other poor countries or war-torn countries and came to the United States and were told that the streets were paved with gold. So again, here, if you can get to the big city in Argentina, out of the country, you're going to be given free wealth. 1934, at the age of 15, Eva escaped her poverty-stricken village when she ran off with a young musician to the nation's capital of Buenos Aires. The young couple's relationship ended quickly, but Eva remained in Buenos Aires. She began to pursue jobs on the stage and the radio, and she eventually became a film actress. She bleached her naturally black hair, so I said she was a brunette, she actually had black hair, to blonde, a look she maintained for the rest of her life, but again, doesn't say why. Maybe there was a movie star that she was trying to copy. I don't know if you know, but all the pictures he became famous of Elvis Presley, he has black hair, right? Well, actually, he is, I guess, dirty blonde hair, but he dyed his hair black because there was a movie star when he was a young guy that he really admired. So there you go. A little bit of trivia there for you. All right, so we're at the top of the next page. It is often reported that Eva traveled to Buenos Aires by train with tango singer Agustin Magaldi. However, there is no record of the married Magaldi performing in Junín in 1934, parentheses now. And even if he had done so, he usually traveled with his wife. Uh-oh, she was dating a married man. Eva's sisters maintained that Eva traveled to Buenos Aires with her mother. The sisters also claimed that Doña Juana accompanied her to an audition at a radio station and arranged for Eva to live with the Bustamante family, who were friends of the Duarte family. While the method of Eva's escape from her bleak or sad without a future provincial country surroundings is debated, she did begin a new life in Buenos Aires. So they're saying, sister says this, friend says that, ex-lover says this. So we're not exactly sure how she got to Buenos Aires, but the point is she did get there, and she did start a new life there. Okay. Buenos Aires in the 1930s was known as the Paris of South America. The center of the city had many cafes, restaurants, theaters, movie houses, shops, and bustling crowds. In direct contrast, the 1930s were also years of great unemployment, poverty, and hunger in the capital. Many new arrivals from the interior, which means the countryside, were forced to live in tenements, which is kind of like slums, boarding houses, and outlying shanties, which are shacks. It became known as villas miserias, which means kind of like miserable homes or apartments. So pretty interesting stuff. Here's a picture of her from a movie. Okay, Eva Duarte in Libertad Lamarque in La Cabalgata del Circo, 1945. Libertad Lamarque is probably at one time, if you know your Latino film history, maybe the most popular Latina actress of a certain period of time. So yeah, she was Argentinian too. So very, very, very supporting role here of Eva. Upon arrival in Buenos Aires, Eva Duarte was faced with the difficulties of surviving without formal education or connections. Yes, connections are important, um, especially in the big city. The city was especially overcrowded during this period because of the migrations caused by the Great Depression. A big overcrowded capital city. On the 28th of March, 1935, she made her professional debut in the play Mrs. Perez, La Señora de Perez, at the Comedias Theater. So it sounds like it's a comedy. So again, she did have some roles. And I don't mean cinnamon rolls, I mean film roles. Okay. In 1936, Eva toured nationally with a theater company. She worked as a model and was cast in a few B-grade movie melodramas. So there you go. Not A-level movies, but B. That might have been an A she was in, but she had a supporting role with Libertad Lamarque there. In 1942, she experienced some economic stability, probably said finally, when a company called Candilejas, sponsored by a soap manufacturer, hired her for a role in one of the radio dramas called Muy Bien, which aired on Radio El Mundo, World Radio, the most important radio station in the country at that time. So that's a big thing. You don't see her, but you get to hear her voice on the radio. So for her, the pay was fantastic to make her have some stability. Later that year, she signed a 5-year contract with Radio Belgrano, which assured her role as a popular historical drama program called Great Women of History. Sounds like this class, the title. Interesting. In which she played Elizabeth I of England, Sarah Bernhardt, and Alexandra Feodorovna, the last Tsarina of Russia. She played these characters on radio. Eventually, Eva Duarte came to co-own the radio company. Wow. In 1943, she was earning 5,000 or 6,000 pesos a month, making her one of the highest paid radio actresses in the nation. Pablo Raciopi, who jointly ran Radio El Mundo with Eva Duarte, is said to have not liked her. Wow, not everyone liked her. Interesting. But to have noted that she was thoroughly dependable. So he gave her respect. It doesn't say why he didn't like her, but he said, hey, I respect her work ethic, her work style. You know. Eva also had a short-lived film career, but none of the films in which she appeared were hugely successful. In one of her last films, La Cabalgata del Circo, The Circus Cavalcade, Eva played a young country girl who rivaled an older woman, the movie star Libertad Lamarque. So we see that that was her last movie, and I guess she was on the brink of film stardom. Maybe she was as close as she was going to get, but we know which direction she went in later. As a result of her success with radio dramas and the films, Eva achieved some financial stability. In 1942, she was able to move into an apartment in the exclusive neighborhood of Recoleta, on 1567 Calle Posadas. The next year, Eva began her career in politics as one of the founders of the Argentine Radio Syndicate. Yes, sir. Ah. So next is his early relationship with Juan Perón. So this is a picture of Mr. Perón, her. It says Evita and Juan Perón in 1947. Official portrait of Juan Domingo Perón and Evita by Numa Arianmak in 1948. He is the only Argentine president to be accompanied by the First Lady in an official portrait. So what that tells you is that in all the portraits before then, they only did the president by himself. They never allowed wife or First Lady to be in the portrait. So I'm sure she wanted to be in the portrait. With his power, he made them accept her choice. She made history with that. Nice portrait. On the 15th of January, 1944, an earthquake occurred in the town of San Juan, Argentina, killing 10,000 people. In response, Perón, who was the Secretary of Labor, established a fund to raise money to aid the victims. He also devised a plan to have an artistic festival as a fundraiser and invited radio and film actors to participate. After a week of fundraising, all participants met at a gala, which is a big, big party, at Luna Park Stadium in Buenos Aires to benefit earthquake victims. It was at this gala on the 22nd of January, 1944, that Eva Duarte first met Colonel Juan Perón. Eva promptly became the colonel's girlfriend. How promptly shall we find out? How quick was that? After just meeting and I'll text you, there was no texting then. 6 months later, no. She referred to the day she met her future husband as her marvelous day. Juan Perón and Eva left the gala together at around 2 in the morning. Perón's first wife, Aurelia Tizón, had died of uterine cancer in 1938, so 6 years prior. But I think he still had a girlfriend at this time. A secret. I'm not telling you that, right? Eva Duarte had no knowledge of or interest in politics prior to meeting Perón. Therefore, she never argued with Perón or any of his inner circle, but merely absorbed what she heard. Juan Perón later claimed in his memoir that he purposely selected Eva as his pupil or student and set out to create in her a second I. So a second Juan Perón. Juan Perón may have allowed Eva Duarte such intimate exposure and knowledge of his inner circle because of his age. Remember I said he was a bit older? He was 48 and she was 24 when they met. So exactly twice her age. You know? What do you guys think of that? Any girls in here that are 24? Are you interested in a 48-year-old man? I won't ask it the other way because we know what the answer is there. He had come to politics late in life and was therefore free of preconceived ideas of how his political career should be conducted. So he didn't have like, oh, I got to do this like a young person plans it step by step. He came so late, it's like whatever happens, happens. And he was willing to accept whatever aid she offered him. Very interesting. May 1944, it was announced that broadcast performers must organize themselves into a union, and that this union would be the only one permitted to operate in Argentina. Shortly after the formation of the union, Duarte was elected its president. Juan Perón had made the suggestion that performers create a union, and the other performers likely felt it was good politics to elect his mistress. Shortly after her election as president of the union, Eva Duarte began a daily program called Toward a Better Future, which dramatized in soap opera form the accomplishments of Juan Perón. So she was all for publicizing and promoting her husband. Often Perón's own speeches were played during the program. When he spoke, Eva Duarte spoke in ordinary language as a regular woman who wanted listeners to believe what she herself believed about Juan Perón. So it's a good acting part there. She did not try to sound as I am the first lady, you must listen to me. Instead, she chose a character of a regular woman listening to the country's president saying, hey, I believe what this man says for our future. Okay, so now we're in the book with our usual painting of her. So we see dressed with expensive jewelry, right? Okay, these little poodles, she loved to play with these poodles. She's dressed very beautifully. She has, this cape is actually the flag of Argentina. You see the money flying away here, which means she spent a lot of money, not only on herself, but on the people to help them have a better future. Remember, she was a philanthropist. Okay. So, and then what she's holding here is they're meant to symbolize that she was like an angel to the regular poor people of the country. So here it says hair like a halo. So that was a halo, which also refers to an angel. Eva Perón, born in Los Toldos, Argentina, 1919. Died in Buenos Aires, Argentina, 1952. First Lady of Argentina and the most powerful woman in Latin America for time. Eva Perón's one escape from her painful childhood was indulging or enjoying Hollywood fantasy, especially on Tuesdays when 3 movies in a row cost only 30 cents. She made it through 6th grade, and at age 15, possibly with the help of a famous tango dancer. You see now it's possibly, or they said it was this Feldo, but now it's, oh, maybe. And got herself to the glittering big city of Buenos Aires. There she took any role she could get in radio, soap operas, movies, and theater. Her reviews were not good, but no one tried harder to succeed. At a concert to benefit earthquake victims, she met the dashing, which means handsome, professional, high-level Colonel Juan Perón, an equally ambitious army officer, twice her age. She had guts was his first reaction. One morning after he left for work, he rented a truck, delivered her possessions. She rented a truck. So the old, he's not home, I'm going to do something. Delivered her possessions to Juan's apartment and moved his current girlfriend out. See, I told you he had a girlfriend. So she kicked out the girlfriend. When Juan returned for his siesta or afternoon relax, he asked no questions when he saw that his former girlfriend was kicked out and Eva was living there. He and Eva were never apart again. By the time he was elected president, She had gladly given up acting for marriage. So, like I said earlier, seems like she was on the brink of doing higher level movies, getting famous for her movie acting, but she chose to marry the president or the colonel. A devout Catholic in most respects, she never had children and never spoke about it. So we'll never know why she never had children. The aforementioned Mr. Perón. I want to have a place in history, she said. Her husband gave her a platform, a stage to attempt this. The thought of injustice always left her physically ill, almost unable to breathe. She first began speaking out against injustices. She mispronounced words, but eventually she developed the poise of a lifelong public figure. Remember, she did not have a lot of education, at least college level, and she was also not a professional speaker. But as she practiced and did more, she got better. And she became a hypnotizing speaker, which means she spoke and people just stood there with their eyes open and mouths open. She could whip workers and the poor into a frenzy of devotion to Evita, which means she could get people excited to do what she wanted them to do. Women adored her after she got them the right to vote and legalize divorce. So that's another way of doing things. You find a group and you do a major thing for them that changes their life, and then you will get that whole group voting for you. Her powerful role in a macho society, which I have mentioned there was a possibility of that, caused some to loathe her. Loathe her is almost like to hate her, especially the militaries, all these military men. They didn't want women invading their spaces or touching their powerful positions. And the military bitterly opposed her unsuccessful attempt to become vice president. The wealthy also did not like her. That's a little different. I don't know why they would. Oh, okay, probably because she originally is a poor person. Many times, wealthy people who come from wealthy families, they are impressed by other people that come from wealthy families. So, a person like her that comes from the countryside and not well educated is lucky enough to marry the eventual president of the country. They are jealous of her. Enemies snickered, which means, you know, that's a snicker, kind of like make fun of that she was fat. She wasn't, though Juan didn't help by always nagging her to exercise. So, again, you know, she wasn't skinny, but she was not fat. But if people don't like you, they find something to make fun of you about, right? One Fred said that Perón was part tiger, part dove, the symbol of peace. She spoke harshly, vulgarly to officials. And that means she used bad words like MF, who knows what. But this tough exterior, she was still scared to sleep alone. She never cried. I guess that means in public. Her priest called her the woman with no tears, meaning that he felt she did not have the ability to cry. And liked to romp, which means play, jump around, with Juan's many poodles. Remember the drawing in the front? She took revenge on people who failed to treat her well, but she also founded a charity that gave away millions. So again, in the photo where the painting where money's just flying out of her hands. So remember the philanthropy, right? About the rich, she said she could bite them just as one crunches into a carrot or a radish. So she didn't like the rich people either. But she cared for the poor, even bathing lice-infested children. Unbelievable. That's something I don't think A lot of the famous women today would do. The poor like to see me beautiful, Perón said in defense of her world famous wardrobe. I guess some people said, you look too rich, you look too this. And she said, well, it's because the poor like to see me nice. Among the 283 rooms of the presidential palace, where she and Juan sometimes slid down the rail of the dramatic marble staircase for fun, were individual rooms for her hats, shoes, and jewelry. So remember, not a closet, not a big closet, not two closets, but you have a whole room just for hats, a whole room just for shoes, and a whole room just for jewels. So that's why I said before she spent a lot of money on the poor. She was a philanthropist, but she also did the same for herself and her likes. To work, she would often wear an elegant designer suit with a velvet collar. For formal occasions, she brought out sequins, feathers, and her resplendent jewels, which means a beautiful, expensive. Her favorite was an Argentine flag brooch or brooch made of diamonds and sapphires, later sold for 1 million. So it's a little diamond pin you wear on your coat or vest or blazer in the shape and design of the Argentine flag, light blue and white. She had a nervous habit of nibbling on her jewelry. And one night ended up with green lips when her necklace turned out to be made of painted noodles. Why would her? Interesting. Painted noodles. She bleached her hair an unnatural halo-like shade of gold. So maybe she thought a blonde angel, you know. Again, famous people do a lot of things to put a presence up. Laden with diamonds, which means she just has a lot of diamonds. She's wearing a lot. Perón rode to work in a Rolls Royce, one of 63 cars she and Juan owned. Again, why do you need 63 cars? I don't know. But she didn't go home until everyone in the line had been given a job, clothes, food, and medicine. See, so she's taking care of the poor. She wrote prescriptions herself. I don't think she was a doctor, but I don't know. I guess nobody would. Can you imagine if you had a prescription and went to the pharmacy? It was written by the first lady. I'm sure they would give you the medicine, especially at that time. Or simply money. She kept cash in her desk. She hugged and chatted, which means talked increasingly the length of her day until she worked virtually around the clock. Always a dieter. As time went by, she ate less and less. That doesn't sound like good for her health. And here we go, ignoring her health. It says at the bottom, she was diagnosed with cancer, too late for doctors to do anything. So, as we say now, in the present time, stage 4. If you could catch it in stage 1 or 2, you have a chance of surviving. 3 is kind of iffy. A wire device held her upright during her last public appearance. Nearly hidden in a huge fur coat, she weighed less than 80 pounds. So, never said how tall she was, but even if she was small, 5'2", 5'1", you weigh less than 80 pounds, that's way too thin. I leave you my heart, she told her followers. To her maid in her final hours, she said, my mother would have married me to someone ordinary and I could never have stood it. A decent woman has to get on in the world. So you can see here, her dream, even as a child, was never to be ordinary. She wanted to be famous, make a name for herself in the world. When you marry an ordinary guy, that's like 99.9%, then that kind of future is not going to happen. When she died at age 33, she was worth approximately 12 million. I don't know what that is in today's number. You know, it sounds kind of small compared to movie stars now who can make one movie for $12 million. So for that time, wow, I don't know what that is. 70 million, 100 million, I don't know. Interesting. So there's Poochie and her shoe and her clothes. Ever after. An estimated 3 million people lined up for miles and filed past Perón's casket, which is a fancy word for coffin. It's an open coffin. The crush killed at least 8 and injured. So 8 people died when 3 million showed up for her funeral and injured hundreds. Juan decided to preserve Eva's body forever and hired a pathologist who had preferred a technique using layers of special plastic. Fearful that her gravesite would become a shrine, her enemies, listen to this, enemies, moved her corpse or dead body all over the world, inspiring bizarre or very strange legends. Yet, when it returned to Argentina, meaning her body, 22 years later, to be displayed with wands, her body was so well preserved, it looked as though she had just died. So, passing this casket or coffin around the world for 22 years, she looked the same. They brought her back to Argentina. Wow. I will return and I will be millions were Perón's most famous words. But her many enemies undid much of her work after Juan, kept in power by his wife's popularity, was overthrown in 1955. More than 40 years after her death, her Cinderella story made it to Hollywood. The movie Evita, starring Madonna, was based on the Broadway musical of Eva Perón's life story. So the reading is done, folks. Like I said, I'm going to get you out of here early because it's the last movie, last recording. Okay, so here we go with the questions. What was Eva Perón's one escape from her painful childhood? So what would she do? What would she enjoy to escape her painful, poor childhood? Did she rob banks? Burn down buildings? What did she do? No, that's modern people, right? Flash mob. 2, whom did Eva marry that eventually became president of Argentina? Was it Ronald Reagan? Was it Leonid Brezhnev? Was it Mao Zedong? Who did she marry that became president of Argentina? With Evita's new platform, why did women adore her? Because she wore expensive clothes. 4, how Evita defend her world-famous wardrobe. So when people say, why do you dress so rich style? How did she defend this? What was her reasoning? Was it shut up, I'm the first lady and you're not? How did she defend it? 5, how did Eva treat poor people even though she rode in a Rolls Royce and wore many diamonds? I'm guessing she did a few things that poor people liked. You can list them, please. And again, the more you list, the more points you get, especially if this shows up on the final exam. 6, after being diagnosed with cancer, what did Eva tell her followers? 7, how old was Eva when she died and what was her worth? And 8, what were Evita's most famous words? So, you know, I normally give you 10 questions, 9 if it's a lot of material. But today I'm going to give you 8 because it's the last class before the final exam. So hopefully you're happy that I'm being kind with you. But like I said, I send this thing early, let you guys relax and be very prepared for the final exam when I'm going to see all your happy faces. Okay. Oops. Previous. Okay, so let's hit the stop share. Okay, everybody, again, this class is scheduled for August the 31st. Okay. So everybody take care, and it will be a little cooler weather coming up when we're in September, which is very, very close. So, thank you much. Bye-bye.